Obviously it's good to get back in the win column. It was a really good team win. Offensively, the things we talked about, we had to do better, protect the football, score touchdowns in the red zone. We were able to do those things and put some points on the board and really take a lead early. Defensively, I thought outside of the one play touchdown on that, the one drive, we made them earn everything they got. One of their touchdown drives, I think, was 16 plays. The other was 13. Then obviously we had the stop on fourth down, on an 18-play drive, had another fourth down stop. Defensively, I thought we played really well for the most part. And on special teams, I thought we executed pretty clean. So it was a good team win. That's going to have to be the formula here going forward. And this week's certainly no different. You're playing a team that is really scary, particularly on offense. They got a lot of weapons. They can score quickly. They create a lot of explosives. And then on defense, they give you a lot of problems on defense too. They've got a really good edge rusher. They've got some big bodies on the inside. You have to play a really good football game. You certainly can't let them get out in front of you, because chipping away and coming back is hard to do. So, we've got our hands full again this week, but we're excited about the opportunity and the challenge. Every week that we can scratch out a win just kind of keeps the postseason hopes and dreams alive. So that's what we're trying to do. We're in week 2 of the playoffs as far as we're concerned, and we got to try to find a way to go get this one as well. Certainly excited to be back home after being on the road for 2 weeks and getting to play in Cajun Field again.
So were they extra aggressive on defense? It's kind of like they've been over the years where they get a lot of TFLs and they give up a lot of big plays too.
I don't know if they're quite as doing quite as much as last year, but I think they're still creating some negative plays up front. They're still active with their front. Like I said, they got a really good edge rusher. He was there last year, but he looks like a completely different player. He's had to have gained about 30 pounds. He's playing really good on the edge. Most of their defense in the 2 deep is all new. They've got some big bodies in there. I think they look, their linebackers are big and long. So they create some negatives there. I don't think they're doing maybe quite as much as they did in the past. Not as many fronts, but they're still bringing pressures. They'll pressure the free safety or the boundary safety. They bring the Sam and the Mike from the field. They'll bring the Will and the Jack from the bound. They still bring quite a few people, and they're really aggressive. But it's not quite as many variables maybe as last year as far as fronts go. But certainly, with an offensive line where you're moving pieces around, those things concern you, right? The movements and things like that we've got to do a really good job this week of getting that detailed.
When you look at kind of lunch, broke the completion percentage record and was so efficient, is it as simple in a lot of those as you guys made difficult catches in one-on-ones? Like what was so different that from early in the season when it was just kind of a struggle?
Well, I just like whenever you're struggling, when you're doing it well, a lot of people go into the success, right? One of the 3rd and 9, the 45-yard throw he had to Shelton on their sideline, the protection was unbelievable. They ran a twist game, a big twist game, a 3-man twist. We pass it off perfectly. The pocket's really clean. It's really good. As a quarterback, you feel good about throwing that. Shelton wins in one-on-one. He works a release. He wins. He stacks it. He does a really good job of keeping the man between him and the ball, plays it over the shoulder. Quarterback throws a great ball. A lot of things go into play. The route distribution on the other side was good. He got the coverage to rotate. He picked the right side. So to answer your question, yeah, we got guys that are making more plays. But I think as a whole on offense, we're playing, the last couple weeks in particular, we're playing a little bit better in the throw game. And, I'll go back to it. 2 weeks ago, one of the picks is a complete fluke. Really both of them. The other one was low and away, and the guy goes to make the play, and he tips it. It almost hits off his foot and bounces there, and they pick it. Like, those things are going to happen. But we're playing better in the throw game. And, it comes down to receivers, but the quarterback putting the ball in the right place. The protection's a lot better. Early in the year, it was just one off on everything. It was like when you finally kind of had the route depth and timing and everything, the protection was soft and you kind of got someone in your lap. So, it's coming together, obviously a lot later than we wanted it to, but certainly we need it to. And we're going to, continue to try to find things that we can that we can execute and cleanly, and things that we can operate with, and things that we feel like we can complete, so that we can move the ball through the air if we need to, or as needed.
Where are you health-wise on the offensive line coming out of that game?
This is the first week, I think, this year in 10 games that we haven't lost a player in a game. So thankful and grateful for that. I think we came through that one pretty good. Where Caden Jensen is progressing through protocol well. We're expecting him to be able to play. Matthew Broussard is someone that I would say is probable. I would say at this point, we haven't practiced yet, but the way he feels, that's a huge thing for us. It just gives you just a hair of breathing room, with where you're at. So we came out of that one pretty good. Jalen Clark, we talked about it after the game. He was never in question to be able to go. It was just if we felt like he was going to be able to function the way we felt he needed to. And early on, it was just it wasn't the same guy. So a week, he didn't play a whole bunch. So another week of rest will be good for him. But yeah, I mean, that's the first time in 10 weeks that, I don't know right now for sure that somebody's going to be out for next week. So, I'm very grateful for that.
Seems like the first half of the game, you kind of went to the screen game a little bit. Second half, it seemed like you went away from that. Was it a situational thing?
We didn't. Yeah, we had some ball out passing a little bit early. I don't know, not really maybe screens. But we were able to kind of control. Do a little bit of ball control passing and get out of our hands kind of quick, and more quick game than maybe screens. The second half, the first drive, we got the ball back and we went down and went up 31 to 7. At that point, it was going to be run the ball, throw if we need to. Was just what I was. We've had some crazy games this year. We were gonna ride the clock, and we were gonna run it as we needed to, and throw it if we had to at the end of the game. About the last quarter and a half. It's just the decision that I felt like we needed to make.
How much of a morale booster was last week heading into this week, especially now coming back home and knowing the challenge to keep winning continues?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a hard game, man. Like, you work so hard week in and week out, and you do things like from start to finish, from Sunday all the way to Saturday. It's a grind every week for everybody involved, and when you keep coming up short, it's just like a gut punch every week. To finally go out there and finally come out on top of it, it just allows you to take a deep breath and say, all right, look, we're doing things the way it's supposed to be done. We just this is the formula we got to repeat week after week and find a way to win. And I told him, I said, this sounds bad. I was like, you have to be obsessed with that feeling, with that feeling in the locker room. Like, it has to be an obsession. And as bad as it sounds, it's almost an addiction. Like, where it's like, we've got to work this week just to get that feeling like one more time. And that's really what it's about right now, because that's where we're at. Like, there is no more wiggle room. And I was so happy for our kids, though, man, just to see the joy that they had, and going out there and going and get a win on the road. It was the first road win, which it's crazy, something we did so well last year. We just struggled with this year. It's a feeling that you've got to be obsessed with getting again. And it's not just on Saturday. It's on, I told them, it's on Sunday. And it's every day of the week in between, everything that you've got to do to get yourself ready to go, and find a way to go do it again.
With Texas State leaving the conference next year for the Pac-12, is there any added motivation for y'all to pick up this last win in Sun Belt play against them?
Man, maybe if the season was a little different. Right now, the motivation is for us is just got to get another one. And that's it's life or death for our team. You know what I mean? For what we want, to have a chance at the postseason. Obviously, it's win at all costs. So I don't know if there's any way you could add more to it. They've been a good member of the Sun Belt. I mean, they've been a team that, particularly the last couple of years, they're a team that, it's tooth and nail. The last 2 years that we played them, it's 2 one-possession games. It's, it's a dogfight every week in and week out. And, I think it's a good venue to go play at. It's a team. I think it's a coaching staff that's done a really good job putting together a team year after year. It's kids that play hard, a lot of talent on that team. Certainly I think for our footprint, it was really good to have a Texas team in there. But I'm excited about the future. They're doing what they think is best for them. I got enough problems to worry about other than that. I'm excited to have Louisiana Tech in the conference next year. I think that's really cool for us and for the league. Things happen. We're focused on winning because we have to. That's where our focus is at.
With the bend but don't break kind of approach a lot of times on defense, playing now this week an offense that don't probably didn't get too many 16-play, 84-yard drives. They score quicker. How does that dynamic work? Is it more complicated on defense to play a quick strike, something like that?
Well, I think it's more important. It's harder to do, right? It's harder to do that, but it's more important not to give up the explosives. And I talked about it with the staff today. After being a couple of days into looking at this thing, that's going to be a key. Is if we can limit the explosives on defense, on offense, if we can not turn the ball over and be efficient in the red zone. That's going to be the key to the game, and that's easier to say than to do. You got to kind of pick your poison on defense. What do you do? Do you try to play man with these receivers that they've got all over the place? Do you try to play zone? And they've got a quarterback who I think has done a really good job of getting the ball to playmakers in space. When you play zone, do you blitz the guy who can really run? Or do you sit back and, again, try to drop people in the windows and all that stuff? So you got to pick your poison a little bit. But the key, it's more important than ever, is to be able to limit explosives. And, they do it in the run game with tempo. They'll get you where you're not lined up and go, and they've done a really good job of that. I think especially, again, if they're giving up chunk plays and they're staying ahead of schedule and they can stay on time with their tempo, they're hard to stop. You got to be able to try to create some negatives. You got to be able to try to keep them in long yard situations where they're not as fast to want to go tempo and things like that. Because, it's more complicated, but it's more important than ever against a team like this, in my opinion.
So a big game for the safeties are really going to get tested.
Yeah, everyone's going to get tested when you play. They're going to be sideline to sideline, and this quarterback, he can throw it sideline to sideline. He will throw. We watched him earlier in the year. He throws against Troy. He throws a field hitch outside the numbers. He's not scared to do it. He's got the arm to do it. They will. Everyone is going to be tested. Up front, gap integrity. They're big up front. They always are. We've got to be able to anchor against the gap schemes and things like that. We've got to line up fast. The linebackers have to get us lined up, and then the corners and the whole secondary is going to be. They're going to be spread out and put in space, and you got to tackle well, and you got to be in the right spot, and we got to play coverage off of each other, and the rush has to match the coverage, and we've got to be able to keep the quarterback in the pocket. So yeah, we're going to be tested from sideline to sideline.
What kind of a runner is he? I know he's gotten a lot of running yards like the do, but what kind of a runner is he?
He's fast. He's elusive. Now he'll run it in there. They have design quarterback runs and quarterback counters and stuff like that, and he'll run it up in there. But he can really run. He's fast. He's elusive. So the biggest threat to me, what's really scary, is you're playing coverage and you got your back to him, and he pops through there, and everybody's out there trying to cover people down around there, and no one's got eyes on him. He can go.